Okay, we are recording. All right, team. So as you can see, things are a little bit different now. Um, it is Christy and I today. David is not here. So if you're used to coming to the FitPro show last year a ton, you know that the past few years, David has been a lead of this. But David is no longer on our team. He actually, him and his family moved out to North Carolina, and he has a new job going on out there, and he's doing super well. But if you want to reach out to him, I can provide you with his personal email, and he'd be happy to connect with any of you. But I did throw all the replays from last year's episodes in our Teams page. So if you want to go back through any of the content, you can. This year is going to look a little bit different. Instead of having just, how last year it was just David and I for every episode, we're going to be having different guest fitness professionals on our team join once a month for our sessions. So today we have Christie Kearns. She is the program manager up in Vancouver, and we're going to be talking about all things brain health. So each time we have a different program manager on with me, they're going to be talking about a specialty or something they're super interested and passionate and knowledgeable in, so that you can start to learn different regions of the health and fitness world. Okay. So today's all about brain health. I'll let Christy introduce herself, and then we'll get going.
Okay, thanks so much, Hannah. As you mentioned, my name is Christie Kearns, and I'm the program manager in Vancouver, Washington. Super excited to be here and talking about brain health today. What I'm going to do is right before we get started, I'm going to give everyone a little brain teaser, and feel free to put the answer in the chat box. So first, I want you to think of the color of clouds. Now think of the color of snow. Last, think of the color of the moon. Now, what do cows drink?
Throw it in the chat, y'all.
Yeah. Nice.
There we go.
That was too easy. Okay, I have some others that are coming along that will be a little harder. Or at least they are harder for me, because I actually got this one right too. Usually my brain teaser's not so great. But let's start with talking about, but you're right, baby cows do drink milk. Thank you. Oh, good. I love it. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about what the brain is. It is dealing with your thoughts, your memory, your emotions, touch, feelings. It's everything that regulates our body. And so it weighs in an adult human, it weighs about 3 pounds, and 60% of that is fat, where 40% is protein, carbs, water, and salt. And it has 4 lobes. So it has a frontal lobe, which is right here, then the parietal lobe. I'm going to turn a little bit, and then you have the occipital lobe, and then the temporal lobes on the side. So the frontal lobe is going to be your largest lobe, and it is with your personality, your characteristics, decision making, movement, and it's associated with smell and speech ability. Then your parietal, which is right behind, helps you identify objects, understanding spatial relationships, interpreting pain and touch in the body, and also helping understand the spoken language. And that's your the left hemisphere. If you do it in a hemisphere, the left side of the parietal lobe is really for understanding language. Then you have your occipital lobe. So that's the one that's back here. And this is going to be for memory formation, distance and depth perception, anything with your visual processing area. So color determination, object and facial recognition, everything like that. And then finally, we have the temporal lobe. And this is for processing information from the senses, managing emotions. It's also deep inside is where the hippocampus is, and that's where a lot of our long-term memories are stored. And it also has to do with musical rhythm. So I really struggle at that part, so maybe mine aren't as developed as they need to be. And
Mhm.
so let's talk a little bit about brain health. Cognitive health. So this is how we think, how we learn, how we remember. Then you have your motor function. So this is really where exercise is coming into play. It's how well you make and control your movements, and it includes balance. So you'll see a lot of the stuff that we do here in the fitness center. We like to incorporate balance. As we age, our balance tends to be a little less stable than it is when we're younger. So this is something that we like to work on, and exercise and everything will help with that. Then we have our emotional function. So how we interpret and respond to emotions. Then we have our tactile function. So touch, movement, um, and then how we respond to the sensations of touch.
Mhm.
So any questions that we have right now?
No, I think it's just great to point out that all parts of our brain are so intricate and developed in different ways and do different things that are related to all those different functions, the cognitive health, the motor function, emotional, tactile that you just talked about. All of them are intertwined, working together. So there's not one area is more important than the other. All of it needs to have a balanced, healthy relationship and function for us to be at our 100%. And so just understanding, we just quickly went over the anatomy of the brain and then what our brain really is for and what it does. And if anyone has questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. So then next we're going to slide into what can we do to preserve and increase our brain's longevity? How do we improve our brain's capabilities and prepare deterioration as we age? Because it is going to happen. It's inevitable, but how can we prevent that from deteriorating faster, prevent or get longevity better? So now we understand anatomy a little bit. I think now we'll just slide into what can we do right now and throughout our life to make our brain's health a top priority.
Okay, absolutely. So as Hannah had mentioned, a little bit of change happens when we age. So a small amount of forgetfulness is very normal part of aging. However, big memory loss is not. So if you're noticing that, that's time to go and talk with your doctor, and there can be a number of reasons for it. So don't always go to a worst case scenario. That's what your doctor is for, to help you figure out what the cause is. Um, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to take care of our physical health. So this is meaning going to your doctor, managing chronic diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, even depression. We want to manage those symptoms. We also want to limit the use of alcohol. So if you're having an increased intake of alcohol, that can really do a variety of health problems, including memory loss and a stroke. And a stroke is definitely something that can cause memory loss as well. Binge drinking has been shown to lead to bigger declines in memory and cognitive function. So, the one thing that we want to do is if you choose to drink alcohol, is to drink it in moderation. And what that means is 1 glass for women per day, 2 glasses for men per day. And by a glass, it is 5 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, and 1.5 ounces of 80 proof liquor. So think of a restaurant pour, not a home pour, because that will make a difference. The other one that we want to do is that we want to, if you're a smoker, to quit smoking. Smoking is a major risk factor for a stroke. So as we talked about that with drinking, smoking, it does the same thing. Nicotine also changes the brain and it leads to addiction. It also reduces your good cholesterol, that HDL. So that good cholesterol, it reduces that. It increases the likelihood of blood clots and it makes exercise harder. So smoking is where we want to, if we can, try to stop that. The nice thing is there's a lot of support out there, and there's a lot of people willing to help. A really easy way to get started with that is calling 1-800-QUIT now. And so that's a great way to go ahead and start the process of stopping smoking. Sleep is also another huge component to having a healthy body, healthy mind. Sleep loss is associated with decreased short-term memory. It's also shown poor performance on newly learned tasks and a difficulty in concentration. So what we want to do is we want to limit our caffeine intake, especially in like the late afternoon, nighttime. And then we want to turn off all of our electronics, so mobile phones, TVs, everything like that, about an hour before bedtime. We want a nice, cool or cold, comfortable, quiet sleep environment. All of that is going to help and to get us into our 7 to 9 hours of sleep. One thing that I like to do too is have a pen and paper right by my side. So as those thoughts are just racing through my head and I'm going to be like, I'm going to forget it tomorrow, I can just write it down and then know I can deal with it tomorrow and not have to worry about it that night. And those thoughts keep me racing in my mind and keep me up so I'm not sleeping. So it's just a little trick that I do that helps myself out. As I mentioned earlier, high blood pressure. Some studies have shown that having high blood pressure in midlife, so your 40s to your 60s, increases a risk of cognitive decline in later life. So, again, that's something that we really want to manage. Being physically active. So there are studies linked with the benefits from physical activity, exercise with cognitive ability. Now, Hannah, I think you had a couple things you wanted to talk about on this one.
Yeah, when we're talking about physically active, that there's so many studies out there nowadays. If you're ever interested and want to go down a loophole, go to Google Scholar and you will see a lot out there. So I kind of want to talk about what happens to our brain immediately when we exercise. Um, so exercise essentially, I like this concept of knowing that exercise feeds our brain. Our It feeds our brain increased blood flow, which is what our brain demands for good circulation. So by exercising, we're feeding the brain more promoted blood flow, getting the molecules up there and out and getting that's immediately happening when we exercise, which is good for our brain. That will increase your brain's ability to function, its memory processes, everything we talked about earlier. The more blood flow that we have going through our brain, the more molecules can get to those areas for the functions to occur properly and efficiently. Um, Immediately, the other one I really want to point out that it does for our brain is it lowers your stress impact, not necessarily directly. So, exercise isn't going to decrease how much stress hormones have been released in your body. So, it's not going to go and just knock out those hormones and stop the stress because the stress has happened. What it's going to do is it's going to decrease the amount of receptors that are in your hippocampus that um, are moving the stress, holding on to the stress and transmitting it, which then decreases the effects of the stress hormones on your brain. So it's going to decrease the amount of receptors coming in. Then that's going to decrease the effects that those hormones have. And we'll talk a little bit more about chronic stress causes actual changes in our brain makeup and matter. So exercise, want to decrease stress. We always hear like, oh yeah, it makes you feel good, decrease your stress. Like chemically, there are things going on that it actually does. So immediately also like, we're going to have dopamine that's going to make us feel good. We're going to get that energy. Serotonin is going to be produced more. So we have more energy throughout our day. So immediately we see a lot of effects in our brain that occur. But I think also we want to talk about long term regular exercise is we're going to see changes in the brain as well. It's going to improve your memory. It's hopefully a lot of studies show that it does reduce anxiety and depression just with the hormones that are occurring and the way our blood is flowing up there. It reduces cognitive decline. And we even see changes in the makeup. So when we talk about the makeup, I want to talk about gray matter and white matter. Um, so our brain is made up of white matter and gray matter. The white matter is what sends information, and the gray matter is what processes the information. And when we have chronic stress, that causes the white matter, the myelin in that, to overproduce. And so then we have an imbalance. We have more white matter that is taking in the information, and then we have less gray matter that's processing the information. And so our brain can't work the way we want it to happen. And that is what ultimately happens is part of Alzheimer's or dementia, where our brain isn't able to process things correctly and remember, and it's all connected. So the more that we exercise long term, we're going to see that the gray and white matter stay naturally the right size. We'll actually see that our hippocampus can increase in size and get bigger, which means that our memory is better as well. So those are some big long-term things that we'll see when you're consistently exercising. Is there anything I missed there that you want to touch on, Christy?
No, that was a lot of great information. And I
Yeah.
love that you went into the white matter and the gray matter. The other thing is talking about neuroplasticity. So
Mm-hmm.
creating those new neural pathways. And what exercise does is it stimulates the brain's ability to maintain those old networks and create new networks. So that's really important. It used to be thought that all of our brain pathways were connected and made and finalized when we were toddlers. And they have found with studies that no, we can make new pathways all throughout our life. So exercise
Mm-hmm.
is a great way to do that. Challenging yourself, trying new things. It also, exercise definitely increases a brain structure that's important to memory and learning. So just as Hannah had mentioned earlier, and so that helps us with better spatial memory. So that is really good. And the other thing that I found really interesting was that the greater the increase, or the more time spent doing moderate levels of physical activity, the greater the metabolism is of glucose, which is our primary source of fuel for our brain. And that has been shown to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many benefits of doing exercise, and not just with your physical body, but your brain and your
Yeah.
mental and everything like that.
I
So
did also want to touch on strength versus aerobic training on the brain, because we're just saying exercise, and you could be sitting there, well, what does strength do versus aerobic? And so when it comes to the two, studies are showing that by doing both strength and aerobic training and not just one or the other is going to see that the older population, your brain is going to be more mentally agile, quicker at thinking and processing. So there's been a lot of studies done on people in their 80s and 90s and looking at what type of exercise they do, self-reported, and they see that by doing both strength and aerobic, those are the people with the best results. Um, Strength training is seen in studies to do benefit more of the function of the frontal lobe. So your decision making, your movement, your smell, and your speech. That's what strength training is kind of they're seen more related to. And then aerobic training is seen more to improve the hippocampus. So the area responsible for memory. So then if you tie the two together, that's where a lot of things are showing the best results in brain health long term.
absolutely, yes. Thank you for clarifying that. I know I was just going with exercise in general, but yeah, there is the benefit of doing both.
Hmm.
What we also want to talk about is what we put inside our body. So what we're eating. And this is really important. What we're finding is a lot of people that are on the Mediterranean diet are showing a lower risk of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. Now, the Mediterranean diet is a plant-based forward um, diet. So they have doesn't mean that they don't have meat or eggs or anything like that, but they focus a lot of their stuff on plant-based foods. It really has those healthy fats, those whole grains, the fruits and veggies, nuts, beans, and seeds. So there's a lot of that. We also want to look at the typical Western diet that we see here in the US. And what that does is that increases your cardiovascular risk. Um, but it also contributes to faster brain aging. So you want to really pay attention to what you're taking into your body. A couple of different things I wanted to talk about as far as like giving specifics of food are those green leafy vegetables. And that has been shown that it may help slow cognitive decline. We also have fatty fish, and this is with the omega 3s in it. And so, healthy unsaturated fats have been linked to lower blood levels of beta amyloid. And that's a protein that forms those damaging clumps in people with Alzheimer's. So, fatty fish or those omega 3s have been shown to do that. Now, if you are plant based, you can still get omega 3s in your diet with avocados, walnuts, flax seeds. So, there's different options of how you can get that healthy food in you. Talking about fruit and berry, especially berries like strawberries and blueberries, raspberries, the flavonoids that give them that bright, beautiful, bold color is helps improve memory. And there's a really interesting study that they had. I'm a nerd when it comes to studies. I love the peer-reviewed studies. What we have is that a study found that women who consume two or more servings of strawberries or blueberries per week, so not day, but per week, had a delayed memory decline by 2.5 years. So that was pretty significant. And then we also have our tea and coffee. So caffeine has been shown to be a short-term concentration boost. So, and it's been helpful to show like better mental function and everything like that. But again, not too late in the day to show interrupt your sleep and stuff like that. You also want to keep your mind really active, doing stuff meaningful. So, like hobbies, volunteering, taking a class, teaching a class, all of that stuff that's creating those new neural pathways that we had talked about. So, doing that, even something as simple as brushing your teeth with the hand with your non-dominant hand and doing something like that, standing on one foot when you brush your teeth. I mean, just anything really basic and stuff like that can also make a difference. Socialization is also huge. People that socialize are usually happier. They show that there is a decline in cognitive, or there's less risk of cognitive decline when being together. So this is a great opportunity to come into the fitness center with your friends to work out. It's also a great opportunity to join our Group X classes, come in and take advantage of our assessments, our one-on-ones, our personal training, just something where you can be with other people.
Hmm.
If you're working from home and stuff like that, take advantage of our QFit classes. We're always hopping on early. So that's a great opportunity to connect with us too during our QFit classes. So there's other ways to really engage and be social. And then as Hannah had mentioned earlier, managing that stress. So that exercising regularly, journaling, getting that stress outside of yourself and not keeping it all inside.
Hmm.
Also, practicing mindfulness, like meditation, and that has actually been shown to kind of change the structure of your brain, which is really pretty neat. and staying in a positive, happy kind of place. So, that's kind of all that I have
Yeah.
today.
I'm gonna touch back on when you were talking about keeping your mind active and challenging yourself. Previously
Mhm.
in the FitPro show, we've touched on the overload principle. So when it comes to strength training, you know, if you come into the gym and or even cardiovascular training, you do the same thing, same weights, same volume, same speed of running, same incline. You know, when we do the same thing, we're not going to see progress. We're going to stay and we're going to maintain, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to see progress, you want to get stronger, that's where we throw in the overload principle. You have to challenge your body to do something new and take on new loads for it to be able to adapt. And so when we're talking about the brain, if we do the same routine every single day, we look at the same things, we're not challenging it in new ways, that brain is just going to stay the same. And what we want is to improve the capabilities of our brain, especially as we get older. I see a lot of people that have retired and they get stuck in their same regular routine. They're not challenging their brain as much anymore with not going to work daily. They're not socializing. You've got to try to think about your brain also as a muscle in a way. We want to train it to get stronger and more capable and faster at processing things and better at memorizing things. So you need to challenge it in the same ways you would challenge your body. Mm-hmm. So that was my touch on there. But yeah, man,
Absolutely.
everything we talked about, there's so much obviously we're throwing at you, but if you can just prioritize each little thing on a regular basis, you're going to prioritize your brain's health. So maybe there's an area that we talked about today that you have been lacking in. Maybe you're not having green leafy vegetables and fatty fish or berries in your diet, or maybe you haven't been exercising. Use this as your motivation to add that back into your routine. Get some extra health benefits for your brain in there, and you'll see other benefits as well in mood elevated, in if you're exercising again, body composition changes, which is also gonna just improve your overall life. So take a lot of what Christy talked about today and see how you can implement it into your new routine.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And please, if there's any questions, let us know. Okay. Um, okay, so we have a question. My nutritionist sent me a Blue Zone PDF, which recommended daily, I'm not sure how to pronounce that word. Canonu wine for,
Yeah, maybe can now.
okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Wine for heart health. Is there research that indicates there is a level or type of alcoholic intake that can be helpful to health, or a type of alcohol that is specifically bad for health? So, really, the way we recommend it is all alcohol moderation, keeping it to that 2 glasses if you're a man, 1 glass if you're a woman. There are just keeping it to moderation. To really with alcohol, you just want to be really careful with it. Um, it is not something. It's kind of it's a poison that we're putting into our
Mhm.
body, and so I. That's why if we say if you're going to drink at all, make sure you're doing it in moderation.
Yeah, there's a lot of different studies out there. There's probably a good study or reason why your nutritionist would recommend that. But at the end of the day, alcohol is a depressant, and so it's going to slow down the way things are functioning in our body, and um, we don't always see that as a good thing. So everything in
Mhm.
moderation, though. Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, you're
Welcome.
welcome. I think Christy had a quick one last brain tweet teaser. So pick your favorite one, Christy, and then
Oh,
we'll send y'all out on a brain teaser. And then if you have any other questions, feel free to throw them in the chat and we can connect with you after.
okay. So we'll do this one really quick. Name 3 consecutive days of the week without using the words Wednesday, Friday, or Sunday.
Let's see if anyone gets this.
Nice job, Kim.
Oh, okay.
'Cause I didn't get that one at all.
No, I had to look at the answer. Awesome.
Way to
Yesterday,
go.
today, and tomorrow. Nice work. All right, team. Thank you all for joining. Next month, we'll have a different program manager from our health fitness team on, and we're going to be just discussing whatever specialty and niche that they're really interested in. That hopefully you all will have some good takeaways. But thanks for joining. I know things look a little different now, but I'm really excited for what we have this year. Yep. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.